How are you all? I'm sorry this one's a bit late, but I was actually waiting for John to come back to me by email. I wanted to clarify some details about this episode, and I touched on it on the last episode with his mate Bob's missus gambling. I wanted more details on Bob and the missus and any kids. So he's come back to me, he's clarified it. We left it. The Bob, this is one of John's closest friends for many years, who's been living in Hawaii in Thailand for a while. And I can now clarify some of the details. So Bob is married to this Thai woman, and apparently they have 2 kids. One is hers from a previous relationship, one is Bob's child. So there's 2 kids. And they're in their the oldest one is probably about 18, 19, but the younger one is about 12. This woman is married to serious gambling, it turns out. And this has been going on in all of Bob's relationship. Now, the other thing I wanted to clarify, I could not figure out whether John had given Bob $1 million Australian dollars or $1 million American or British or whatever. It was Australian dollars, $1 million. And I haven't worked out whatever the maths is, but that's millions of baht. Maybe 10 million plus baht. Anyway, you work it out for me. Millions of baht. And he'd given Bob that because Bob was broke. He didn't know why Bob was broke, but as a favour, because Bob had done him so many favours over the years and helped him out. And John had so much money in the bank, and no one to help with it or give it away or when he dies or anything. So, to clarify, Bob's wife had been gambling a long time. Bob had put this $1 million Australian dollars into his Thai bank account, and maybe it went into Australia and then came across. Noises everywhere. I cannot make a video without noises. This time it's the neighbour's delivery. Bless. $1 million Australian dollars he'd given to Bob. And Bob, from what John said to me in this email, Bob was not the cleverest person. And Bob had not he'd put all the money in a joint account. He'd left his wife to just pay the bills, and Bob sort of just carried on with his own little life and didn't take care of the money. So she had, as soon as that $1 million was in the bank, she apparently hit the gambling hard. Now, gambling in Thailand is illegal, but if you've watched some of the COVID things that have been happening in the last year, you would have seen a lot of underground casinos shut down. They are there. And outside of the cities and towns where those are, when you're in villages, there's always, every village, someone who's running card games, and they call it high-low. You know, they shuffle a pack and they get you to pick the stack up, and whatever that number is, you've got to say high or low and that number. And the next card they draw, or they put it all back and shuffle again, the next card they pull, is it going to be higher or lower? And they gamble thousands of baht on one turn. They're trying to get that big chunk of money, and they always win and then lose it by gambling on and on and on. Anyway, apparently she has family, so it might be her mother that lives with Bob, her mother and friends, and they're all gamblers. She had been lending some of that money to people, gambling. Well, she gambled the whole lot. It had all gone in a matter of months. $1 million Australian dollars. Now, Bob's an idiot for putting all his money in one basket, for not controlling his money, for not watching it. It's totally his fault for not controlling it. And having a wife that gambles so much, obviously they're not talking about it, and it all came out in the last day or so. Now it's evening. They just had a meal, and Bob had pulled John to one side and started telling him about all this. Now, huge shame. But John could see, he knows what sort of person Bob is, but he feels sorry for him, and he's like, you're an idiot. You don't take control of your own money. You've thrown away a lifetime opportunity with the amount of money I gave you. You could have bought this house. You could have bought your house. You could have bought several houses and invested. But instead, you've blown the lot. And he said, what else have you done, Bob? Or what else has she done? And at this point, John's looking across at Bob's missus, and she's mingling with John's missus, with Zoe. And John, you can see John's thinking, I don't want her mingling with Zoe. And he's sort of beginning to lose his temper a bit with Bob. And Bob said, well, she's gambled our car, she's gambled the bikes, the house, more money that's in the bank. So all of that's gone, and she still owes money. And John's like, I can't believe it. You're an absolute fool. And he said, what are you going to do? And Bob's like, I don't know. He said, I don't speak Thai. I've got no one to turn to translate it all and help me figure it out. I haven't got a clue. And there's people knocking on the door every day now. And Bob's like, well, I don't know anyone. He said, I'm not going to get Zoe involved in your relationship now. No chance. He said, get a lawyer. Get a lawyer to sort it all out. Get all these people, figure out. Bob's like, I don't know how much money is owing. And John said, well, I suggest you go home with your wife and you find out exactly what money's owing, all these people knocking on the door. You come back to me tomorrow and tell me what that number is, and I'll consider helping you one more time. But this is going to strain our relationship. I mean, gambling is a huge problem in Thailand, in every country. But in Thailand, there's a lot of people with no money, and they gamble their little bit of money thinking it's going to change their lives. And so often, in my village, a lad that's a lovely lad, he's got an 80-year-old mum and dad. They live in a wooden jacked up house on stilts. And they had about 10 pieces of land. The son gambled the lot away. And the owner now of that land and their house is letting his mum and dad see their days out. And when they die, that lad I know is going to be kicked off the land and out of the house. All from high-low gambling. So it happens everywhere in Thailand. Have you experienced it with your Thai partners or friends? So, end of the night. Bob goes. John's immediately onto Zoe and says to Zoe, Zoe, and explains to her what's happened. And he sits Zoe down, and Zoe's listening, and he tells Zoe all about what's happened to Bob. And Zoe's like, this happens everywhere. And he says to Zoe, do you gamble? She says, I buy lottery tickets. And he says, you don't buy lots? And she says, no, I can't afford to. I buy lottery tickets. And he said, please, don't gamble. Don't get involved with gambling, casinos, cards. Never. He said, I'm happy you buy a few lottery tickets. And he said, just promise me. And she's like, yeah, well, what's that worth? And she said, yeah. And he said, Bob and his wife are in big trouble. And Zoe then said, how much did you help him? And John said, I don't really want to say. It was a good amount of money I helped him. And Zoe said, what are you going to do? He says, I'll help him. I'll clear all this debt from his wife. If it's not too much, I'll help him one more time. But I'm not going to give him loads of money so she can grab it again. And he said, what I would like to do? And Zoe's like, yeah. He said, would you mind if I buy his house and put it in your name so that she can't gamble it away and he's got a house for the rest of his life? And Zoe's like, yeah, no problem. I don't mind if that helps. Yeah. Come on. What are we doing here? One foreigner, Thai wife, gambled all the money away. And here's another foreigner who's got his head screwed on a bit, but obviously not enough. He's left the door open. He's going to put his friend's house, buy it, and put it in his cleaner girlfriend's name, who has only been with a few months. It's like, I can see his reasoning. For some reason, he's already trusting Zoe 1000%. Anyway, apart from that incident, they've had a good day. And he says, come on, let's go to bed. I've had enough. And Zoe's like, yeah. Next morning, now he knows Bob's going to get in touch some point today. And he says to Zoe, look, he's going to come at some point today and tell me how much money he owes. But we need to try and figure out, is it true? Is she telling the truth how much money she owes, or is she making it up? How can we, can you think of a way we can clarify this? He said, I don't want you getting involved. And she's like, I don't know. She says, you need a Thai person to talk to the people that she owes money to, which could be nasty people. And he says, yeah. He said, what about a lawyer? He said, and she thinks, maybe, but maybe those people she owes money to won't talk to that person, a lawyer. He's like, oh dear, we need somebody. He's sort of, I don't know what to do. We need to clarify how much she owes. And Zoe's like, I don't really know anyone in Hua Hin. I don't know what to do. And he's like, yeah, I'm not sure. Anyway, he said, this morning, we can make Bob wait. He said, let's go and sort those bikes out. How do we do this? And Zoe's like, probably the bike shop are going to want to see the bikes. He said, yeah. She said, my bike's got fuel in now and it works. The other bike doesn't work. And he's like, yeah. She goes, if we find all the documents, you ride my bike, push me on the bike that doesn't work. She said, we saw bike shops up on the main road, which is about 2-3 kilometres away. He's like, yeah, it's a long way pushing the bike. And she's like, yeah. She said, but they'll want to see the bikes. You need to take them there and then they'll trade them in. He said, yeah. He's like, hang on a second. Bob's going to owe us loads of favours. And she's like, yeah. But his pickup won't fit 2 bikes on. She said, put the broken one on his pickup. And then ride the other ones. Good idea. So he rings Bob. Bob's like really sheepish on the phone and scared. He said, look, Bob, I need a favour. And Bob's like, oh, anything. You need to pick a scooter up here, follow us down to a bike shop because we're going to get another bike. Bob's like, no problem at all. And it's just to Bob, have you found out numbers? And Bob's like, I've got a friend who's a foreigner, but he speaks Thai and he lives 3 doors up from me. He said, I'm embarrassed, but I'm going to go and get him and see if he'll translate and figure out all this. And John's like, okay. We said, well, I actually want to be in on that conversations with that guy so I know exactly what the score is. And Bob's like, really? And John's, yeah, I want to be there. Bob said, okay, well, let me come down and sort your bike out, and then I'll arrange a meeting with this guy, neighbour up the road, and you and me and my wife, and see what we can do. John said, okay. So Bob shoots down, turns up, they throw this bike on the back of the pickup truck, the broken one, the one they inherited from the house. So he gets her bike, she said, I'll follow you down. And they jump in, John jumps in Bob's pickup, and they go straight off down to the town, find a Honda dealer, drag the bike off the back. And John said, don't hang around, Bob, go and sort that out. Let's try and get it done today. Go and find that guy and ring me. And Bob's like, okay, I'll sort it. Off he goes. So Zoe, John go in the Honda dealership, chat away, and lovely. They're always doing you a deal. They're always happy. And they come to They only are offering pennies for the 2 bikes, because they're second hand. Strange market, second hand bikes in Thailand, scooters. A lot of the Thai people can't afford to buy a second hand bike, say 15,000 baht cash, or maybe 20,000 baht cash. But they go to a main dealer, they can get finance, which costs them a couple of thousand baht a month. So it's the second hand bike market, it's a strange one. A bit like cars. Anyway, they managed to get a number off the Honda dealer, and the Honda dealer's like, here you go, what do you want? How are you paying? And John said, I'll just pay by card. He says to Zoe, pick any bike you want. And Zoe knows that they're going to look at a car possibly. So she just says, the same as you, just different colour. And they buy a Honda Click, whatever colour. And it's 50,000 baht, 55,000 baht. And they do the deal. And this dealer hasn't got a bike ready. They can wait 1-2 hours and they can get it ready. And John's like, just get them to deliver it. And they said, yeah, we'll deliver it free. They do all the paperwork, give all the paperwork from the other 2 bikes to the garage, sign everything. It's in Zoe's name again. John pays for it. And they said, we're going to get some lunch. And then we'll be home. And the shop said we'll deliver it late afternoon. So it looked great. So him and Zoe, they're in the middle of town. They just go off and get some lunch. And after that, they just get a tuk-tuk or a songtail back or a taxi, whatever. Back they go home. A bit later on, the bike turns up. Brilliant. Zoe's happy. They've now got pretty much 2 brand new scooters in the garage. And the bike shop gave her a little jacket and a rubbish helmet. But hey-ho. And a red number plate. Being brand new, she's going to have to keep that for about a month till her number plate arrives. And the bike comes with tax and basic insurance, so all good, all sorted. Zoe now has a house, a bike, 2 bikes in fact, and 3 big TVs, a swimming pool, everything. It's a dream. Let's leave it there. And let's see what happens with Bob on the next episode. 1 million Australian dollars puts in his account, joint account, doesn't watch it, his wife gambles it all away. Plus his vehicle. Did she gamble the house away? We'll find out on the next episode, because it wasn't their house, they've rented it. Did she gamble something, maybe furniture or any gold she had or anything that's not bolted down she could have gambled against? And by the way, second-hand vehicles in Thailand, if you're going to buy one and the deal seems too good to be true, let me point this out to you. With illegal gambling, the people that run those establishments or games will lend money to people like Bob's wife to gamble against. And if they can't pay it back, they will take, if it's a vehicle, they will take the vehicle off them. But because it's illegal gambling, most of the time they won't get the documentation. They'll just take the vehicle. So they sell those vehicles, and it could be a vehicle that might not have proper documentation, or any documentation. So if you suddenly got offered a high-end car for well less than half its value, you really need to check the documentation is right. There is a market for that sort of thing. So buying second-hand cars and bikes in Thailand, you need to know that is correct documentation. How do you find out if it's correct? Well, you take the seller with you to the Department of Transport, I believe it is, where you transfer it to your name when you buy it. And by all the documentation being presented, it can be checked, clarified, certified, transferred to your name. But if a person selling you the car or bike says, I haven't got the documentation at the moment, but I'll send it to you, or I'll give it you at a later date, don't do it. Make sure you see all the documentation and take that person, because they're probably itching to sell their vehicle, maybe desperate, by saying, I'll go with you to the place the car's registered, whatever city or town it is, we'll transfer it together. It pretty much safeguards you. So just be careful there. And if you've had any experience of what I'm talking about, you can put comments below. Obviously I can't say too much because it's, well, you can't say some stuff on YouTube. But yeah, just be careful. I'll see you on the next episode. We'll find out the number Bob comes up with. He's going to lose. It's a bit embarrassing going to a neighbour 3 doors up and then telling him what he's done and what's happened. But it's the only way it's going to go forward with John's help. I'll see you on the next episode. By the way, me and Mem are fine. And I'm working 7 days a week now, and Mem's joining me on my main job. Will be working with me. So we'll update you as it goes. But all good. And the sun's out in the UK. And I'm missing you guys a lot. Take care. Bye.